I'm disappointed, and I'm unimpressed. I'm disappointed, Skip and Joy, because this is the tipping point. Of the 7,537 things that President Trump has said in the last 50 years, him calling an NFL player an SOB is what brought the NFL, the owners and its players together. And while some might be moved by the conscience of these NFL owners, it wasn't their conscience that moved them. It was the cash. Because, see, Skip, what we know about people with money, they don't like being told what to do. They don't like being bullied. You see, President Trump has bullied a lot of people. The very first thing that he uttered as he strolled down that escalator 2.5 years ago, he said, Mexico is sending us their worst, murderers, rapists, and drug dealers. That didn't shock the conscience of the NFL's owners. Him offending Gold Star families, nope. Him calling Rosie O'Donnell a pig. Him on the Access Hollywood talking about grabbing hoo-ha. That did not shock the very conscience of 7 NFL owners. Skipping, allow me a second to name those guys. One, Daniel Snyder, the guys on your monitor. Jerry Jones, Mr. Bob Kraft, McNair, Houston Texans. Woody Johnson, Shad Khan. They gave $1 million for the inauguration of President Trump. And now they seem to be shocked. Every author that's written a book about President Trump, and they started writing books about him in the 1980s, they say he is exactly today as he was then. Sure. So that is all I want to say about him. Skip. Now what has happened, because what he said in Alabama, play into it, you know what happens in Alabama, Skip. There's something that's going on in America right now that's more valuable than Google and Apple stock. It's more valuable than gold and Bitcoin. It's called race. It's very valuable. And President Trump, he understands that. But Skip, now I'm unimpressed because this wasn't a protest. This was unity. So what are we showing solidarity against, Skip? We're showing solidarity because President Trump, he challenged the very men, wealthy men, billionaires, and he told them what you should do if someone protests, you should fire them. They don't like being told what to do, Skip. And then, Skip, he called the players that protested the anthem, he called them SOBs. Think about that now. He called them SOBs. That's what got the owners, that's what got the players to unite. Is that the worst that he's ever said? Absolutely not. Never called Vladimir Putin an SOB. Never called Erdogan of Turkey an SOB. Even those men that walked down the streets in Charlottesville, Virginia, Skip, carrying the tiki lights, hollering what they were hollering, inciting violence. He never said SOB. As a matter of fact, Skip, he said there were some good people in that group. What has transpired, Skip, again? Because what were they uniting against? It's almost like they were uniting against Colin Kaepernick's right for free speech. That's not what Colin Kaepernick was talking about. It's almost like they're uniting against you trying to attack us. Because see what happened, Skip, when he was from the bully pulpit, when he was looking down upon everybody else, the owners never had a problem with that. It wasn't until he came for the NFL that their conscience was shocked. How dare you tell us what we should do? You think you can tell us that we should fire somebody? Because remember, they said First Amendment. Here we are, 14 months after Colin Kaepernick originally kneeled. And when they asked him, he said, it's not about the flag, it's not about the veterans, it's not about the police. It's about the brutality that unarmed men and women of color are suffering. It's about the injustices. It's about the inequities that's going on in America. That's what he said. And still, we talk about the freedom of speech, and all these teams released these statements, said how divisive. Only the Seattle Seahawks touched on what the real issue was. And the problem that I have, Skip, is that these guys, some of them, and I'm very disappointed, and a few I'd like to say, I'm very disappointed in one of my very best friends, Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis sat in that chair right there and said that he could never kneel. He could never not stand for the national anthem. because so many people died, and he had family members to fight for this country, and the opportunity, and the flag means so much to him. And he kneeled, not on one knee, on both knees.
He did.
So what were you kneeling for? You kneeled, you showed solidarity because of what President Trump said. And when Colin Kaepernick is trying to draw attention to the injustices going on, you deem that inappropriate? LaShawn McCoy, you remember what you said about a month ago about Colin Kaepernick? Not only were you kneeling, you were stretching. You were even worse than kneeling. The hypocrisy. And that's what I find so ironic about this, Skip. The very people that said they could never, ever kneel. Some people, I like Tom Brady. Tom Brady said, I'm not going to touch it. I prefer you do that. But these, all of a sudden, I just want to know, what are you unifying against? Are you showing unity? Are you showing solidarity against racism or the injustices that's in this country? Or are you showing solidarity against President Trump and what he said? His attack on the very NFL, the shield. Because what we know about above all else, those 32 men and the commissioner will protect that NFL shield at all costs against all foreign and domestic. President Trump had to find that out the hard way. They've allowed him to attack so many groups in America. It wasn't until he came for one of 32 and the 1,600 men, and only a handful of them, Skip, have ever nailed in protest.
Yep.
And he called him an SOB, and that shocked the conscience. Skip, not grabbing the access Hollywood joy, that didn't shock anybody. He offended a Gold Star, a family that lost a son fighting for this country. He called John McCain a loser because he was captured. John McCain was a POW in Vietnam. He refused to come home until everybody came home. NFL didn't say a word. Nobody locked arms. So what are we uniting against? What are we standing for now? If that is what it took, what he said, if that what shocked your conscience, if that what made you choose to unite, so be it. But there's a bigger issue, and the issue is the racism and the injustices in America, in which Colin Kaepernick took a knee for in the beginning, and only Martellus and Michael Bennett and Malcolm Jenkins and a handful still understand what the issues are.
Okay, so just to be clear, you were unimpressed with the reaction to President Trump's statements of Saturday night that we saw on the field pregame anthem.
That was like, on a scale of 1 to 10 of things that he said, that's like a 2.
Okay. First, to your friend, and I'm going to go so far as to say your brother, Ray Lewis.
Absolutely.
If there's anybody close enough to be a brother without being a biological brother in this world, it's Shannon Sharpe to Ray Lewis. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair. I only got a handful of those. That's not my biological brother that I treat like my brother, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them.
That's why there's so much credibility in what you have said in criticizing Ray Lewis, who obviously is a regular here on Undisputed.
Correct.
I ask you this question, and it's only a question, not a statement, but is it possible that even Ray Lewis, like so many Trump supporters, saw the light finally?
No.
And said, man,
no,
I can't do this. I can't support anything about our president anymore. I've got to join in with the reaction too. No?
I think what it was is that Steve Bisciotti, the owner, said, this is what we're going to do as a team. We're going to show unity, and Ray joined in. I would have preferred he stayed in the locker room and do nothing, because that's what he said up here. He said he couldn't kneel. He said he couldn't protest the national anthem. That's what he said. I'm taking him at his word.
Okay, and I'm going to assume you're going to have a word privately with Ray Lewis today.
You better believe it, Skip Bayless.
Thank you for that. That would be important to me to hear the outcome of that. Okay, back to what I saw on the field yesterday. And I was so ashamed of our president on Saturday night. I was so horrified by the remarks that he made that I was in the mood for something good to happen. So maybe I'm overreacting, but I did see a silver lining yesterday. I saw a we. I saw a we against that president. I saw locked arms. And it did my heart good, because I've told you from the start, I don't have the answers. I do know we have a serious problem facing this country that has still not been addressed directly, which is the killing. I've said this for 3 years on national TV, the killing of unarmed black men by white officers. It has to stop. It has to be dealt with. And I do believe, and I've told you this now for 6 months, that Colin Kaepernick has had impact there.
Of course.
Profound national impact. And I told you from the start, I cringed, because I'm a God and country guy. You know that. It's the first time I saw him, what did he do the first? Did he sit for the anthem the first time?
He was sitting on the bench. That is correct.
So the first time he sat for the anthem, I just cringed, because I just believe in our country long-term, big picture. And yet, I also told you, as I listened to this young man, and he is still a young man, so eloquently define and lay out what he was protesting against, I bought completely into it. And I applauded it, and I endorsed it, and I tried to support it here on Undisputed. And he risked his job, and I think he sacrificed his job to make that statement. And he will go down in history because of that. So that set the tone for what we saw yesterday. And yesterday was in support, in large part, of Colin Kaepernick, what he started. And no matter what it took to detonate this reaction within the league united against Donald Trump yesterday. Robert Kraft condemned Donald Trump yesterday. And just for those who don't know this, Robert Kraft considers himself a close friend of Donald Trump. And he has told the story many times publicly that after he lost his longtime, sort of lifelong partner and wife, Myra, that for a whole year thereafter, once a week, Donald Trump went out of the way, this is obviously pre-election, to call Robert Kraft and say, "How are you?" And he said he will take that to his grave, that meant a lot to him. That's how he defines a friendship. So it took a lot for Robert Kraft, for whatever reason, for the wrong reason or the right reason, to be forced into the corner of condemning our president and his close friend, Donald Trump. You got to admit, that was a big deal.
No, because he brought it to his house.
Okay, but
He did,
still,
but Skip,
but it's still, this was progress.
Let me ask you a question.
This was a heartwarming display to me. It's better than nothing.
No.
Okay, just remember the circumstance of what was happening. We just had Kenny Stills a week ago talking about what happened to the movement. It's fading. Where are we? Come join me. What's happening here? Remember that?
Yes.
Okay, and we talked about here on Undisputed a couple times that it seemed like the protest movement had subsided. It was sort of fading into the background of the NFL season.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Well, guess who jump-started it on Saturday night? Isn't that a positive thing? Didn't it bring new awareness to it?
But the movement that Kenny Stills talking about that was dying out was the killing of unarmed people of color.
The protest of that.
And the injustices and the inequities in America. It wasn't about the First Amendment. No. It wasn't about showing solidarity because President Trump called somebody an SOB. That's not what he was talking about. And what we're talking about is still not the issue that led Colin Kaepernick to begin in the beginning. See, we need to give President Trump a lot more credit than we do because he knows what he's trying to miss. Skip, he's playing the shell game with us. Because he's trying to get this health care passed. There's this investigation going on. There's North Korea.
I don't know enough to know. I've told you before, I'm not political enough to even debate with you about
But here's the thing. Now, that Access Hollywood tape, Mr. Kraft did not want to call out Donald Trump. When he offended Mexicans, when he offended Gold Star, when he offended women, when he offended other minorities.
I get you, but still, to me, I'm going to say this again. I've said it a couple times before, especially I thought this late Saturday night, that in a crazy way, because there's craziness to our president, that Donald Trump has been the greatest thing that could have happened at this moment for the black community and the Colin Kaepernick movement, because he has helped inadvertently unify the black community, mobilize the black community, and create a lot of sympathy in the white community that might not have been there before for the black community and this issue. And he's doing it because his remarks were so insensitive and so out of bounds. And I told you before that I'm not political, and I just got to, let me put myself back in context here. I did not vote for Donald Trump because I kind of put God above country. So I talked to, I'm close to 4 different pastors. So I asked them, what do you think of this man? And what do you think of this woman who's running against him? And they did not like that man. So I finally said, I'm out. I'm out on this one. So I just backed off. And yet when he got elected, shockingly to me, and shockingly to a whole lot of people,
Yes.
I decided, okay, I got to get back on board, because I've always gotten back on board. And I think a lot of people in this country said, okay, let's try this. Maybe it'll work out.
The presidency is an institution. It's not a man or a woman.
No, it's not. I'm going to support the office of the president.
Correct.
So then I watched this man slowly destruct in office to the point that, as unpolitical, apolitical as I am, I'm starting to think he's just not qualified for the office. And I think a lot of people are coming to that conclusion, right?
Skip, he was never qualified.
Okay. Well, I tried to hope that he would figure it out on the fly, and he went the other way. And then Saturday night, he came across as a desperately insecure egomaniac, just reaching for the last bit of support. I'll go to the far right again. Yeah. I'm playing to the crowd because he said a couple times to the, where are they, in Huntsville, Alabama?
Alabama.
Yeah. And he says, what a great crowd. What a great crowd. And I think he was empowered and emboldened by the crowd. Yeah. And it felt like he went off script to take these shots at the NFL.
And this is where he speaks. This is where he opens his heart. Yeah. This is where he opens his soul. Okay, not on prompter.
I got it.
I'm going to say this. Teddy Roosevelt said, if you educate a man in mind and not in morals, you educate a menace to society.
Yep, that's true. So if our president of the greatest country in the world had at least given any credibility or credit to the movement itself by saying, I get what they're trying to protest, some throwaway line, just something to preface, and then deleted the SOB and just said, I wish owners would fire them, which no owner can fire you over a social protest anyway. It's just completely wrong-headed and completely out of bounds. But if he wants to play to the crowd with that, but he gave them no quarter. He gave them no points, no credit whatsoever for the movement. And then he attacked a league that's, well, I think it's 75% African-American, 70%.
Like 70%.
Yeah, 70% African-American, and began to condemn the league as if the league's ratings are falling. Well, we just went through not one, but 2 hurricanes that took a lot of TV sets away.
Historic.
And, yes, yeah. And then he's trying to condemn it as it's about me. People want to watch me. Well, this is unstable, man. This is to the point of, are you sure is this the man you want running your country?
Just, Skip, and just all I ask is that why, when minorities ask that America be who she said she would be on paper with the Constitution, the Stars and Stripes, what she represents, says we're going to treat everybody equal, regardless of your religion, your race, or your gender. Why, when I demand America do that, why must I leave? Why do people tell me, if you don't like America? I love America. America has been great, but I should demand and expect her to be better and to be what she said she would be. And when she's not, it is my job as an American citizen to call attention to it. And stop telling me people died for a cloth. They didn't die for that flag, Skip, because if they die for that flag, they'll die for a dress, they'll die for a pair of jeans, they'll die for a T-shirt. They died for the freedoms and the liberty in which that flag supposedly represents. So stop saying men and women died for that flag. They did not. They died for what that flag represents. And I demand that America be who she said she would be on paper and be who she said Stars and Stripes would represent. That's what I demand of her.
I hear you, but in the end, I still thought that the reaction yesterday was positive, that it was another small step forward, maybe for the wrong reasons, but it actually united the whole National Football League against this.
Well, so there's a lot of very different layers to this, but I will say I'm not surprised at all that Trump said anything to the sort whatsoever. But I do have to say, the first thing that I thought after processing all of the, just ridiculously disrespectful comments from the office of the president. Billionaires really don't like being told what to do. And if I was a billionaire owner and probably a titan of industry, since I am a billionaire, having the president say that money should be taken out of my pocket would probably make me a little
Not my
angry.
conscience.
Yeah.
Check back with me in a couple of weeks, Skip.
Yeah.
We're going to see if they're still locking arms. Check back with me in a couple of weeks, Skip. Let's see how this
I'm
discussion.
sure a lot more will come of this. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few segments from the newest show on FS1, First Things First, with Chris Carter and Nick Wright.